Hey guys, how you doing today? Welcome to the video, and as you can tell by the title, I'm making a video on how to improve your aim in Modern Warfare. There are a lot of videos on how to improve your aim and stuff, but everyone has their own ways, and I've tried to follow some of those, and like a lot of the stuff just didn't work for me. And I'm specifically going to show you guys some of the ways that I developed my aim and helped it get to where it is today and still improve every day. So yeah, I'm going to show you guys everything I do from my warm-ups to the little tips and tricks that I figured out on my own for helping muscle memory. And yeah, we're going to jump into that. So first up, we have Kovaaks. This is most definitely like the most popular aim trainer out there. I use two, but we're going to start with Kovaaks today. And the first scenario that I do is Jumbo Tile Frenzy, the 3 tiles specifically. It's actually a really good aim training scenario, and you just flick between these 3 tiles that spawn, and it helps with your micro flicks and long-term flicks depending upon how far they are. And the important thing to remember here is if you miss a tile, it's not a big deal. Just keep going, try to keep up your speed in your flicking and stay accurate. You know, shoot towards the middle of the tile. It's pretty straightforward. All right, the next scenario that I use is Ascended Tracking V3. This one was really popular when I used to play Fortnite, and I've always stuck with it because it's a really good aim training scenario. The gist of it is you just need to keep your cursor on the moving targets. That's what tracking is the ability to keep your crosshair on a moving target and follow it where it goes. This is really good for that, and you have to do that a lot in Call of Duty. More specifically, probably Warzone, but it runs into a lot of multiplayer. You always need to know how to track anyway. So this is a really good aim training scenario for that specifically. And the important thing to remember here is that don't spend too much time keeping it perfect 100% of the time. You're going to get to that point. Just do your best on every target. And eventually you get there, you know, and you know, if you could somewhere hit around at the top left, it says your session accuracy. If you keep it above 50%, you're doing just fine. Okay. Like I'm at, what is it, 61 right now. And that's really not bad at all. There were times I've been up, I've been down. Each day is different. You're not going to feel the same every day you do the training scenario. It's just how it is, but definitely try your best. And I promise you guys will get there. All right, so the next aim training game is Aimbeast, and this is probably now my more favorite one. The first scenario we're doing is Jumbo Tile Frenzy, basically literally the same one from Kovaaks, the first one that I showed you guys. And the reason why I do it twice is because, you know, you're kind of like just warming up when you start on Kovaaks, but by the time you get to Aimbeast and do it again, you're feeling a lot better. Like your arm's a little more warmed up, you can use your fingers a little better, so you're always going to have better performance on this the second time around than you will on Kovaaks. The second aim trainer I use is Ascended Tracking again, literally the same one from Kovaaks, but now in Aimbeast. This one is a little differently. The targets are a little farther away, so you got to be a little more precise. And I do exactly the same as I do in Kovaaks. And one of the more important things to remember is because there's multiple targets, there's more targets in this one than there is in Kovaaks. You want to flick between every target. Because, you know, like if you guys are here, you might be trying to get the kind of aim some of the top aimers have in Modern Warfare, which is achievable. It just takes a lot of work. And one thing they do is they always flick between moving targets. So like the second the target's dead, they flick to the next one, flick to the next one. So you always want to try and do that as much as you can. And like I said, not every day is going to be the same in terms of how well you perform. So don't get down on yourself if you're not doing as good today's or the day before, 2 days from now, whatever. All right, and the last aim training scenario I use is actually Goob's Air Invincible Hard. You want to set these filters at the top, check off easy, medium, and set it to tracking. And then you get right here to Goob's Air Invincible Hard. And I actually have 7th in the world on this as far as highest score on tracking. And I put this in a video the other day, but this is by far my favorite aim training scenario. I've always thought I had pretty good tracking, especially when I played Fortnite. And, you know, that kind of just carried over into COD pretty well. And this, I highly recommend this. If you can't do this one, there's another scenario called the Goob's Air Invincible Medium. It's one step below this, and all it is that little sphere you're shooting. It's bigger, so you have less chance of missing it. But personally, I always do the hardest scenario just because I like to have the extra skill that implies you to have. And I promise you guys, if you get good at this scenario, a lot of other aim training scenarios will just come a lot easier to you. They're going to be a lot easier to do. All right, and last on the list, we're going to move right to Modern Warfare, which is the main game I play on my channel. And the first thing I do is I go into a custom game after I do my first 2 aim training games on Steam. I change the map to either Shipment, Shoot House, or Speedball. Today we're going to do Shipment. And then you're going to want to go to your game roles, set the match time to 5. Actually, before we do this, you're going to want to change it to free for all. That way you don't have a whole team shooting at you. I set it down to 5 seconds so I can start immediately. Set the score limit to whatever you'd like. I generally do about 300 points, which is 300 kills at 15 minutes on Shipment, which is just about enough time to do them all. And I put 11 bots on and put them all on recruit. And it just makes it a little easier for you to practice your aim. And then I start up the match. All right, and once you get into the match, you're going to want to choose a gun. The important thing to remember is you're going to want to switch to a lot of different guns because every gun aims differently. But the first one I'm going to start off with today is the Scar. And I just like to really practice flicking between targets, you know? So like one target to the next, those little quick micro flicks in between targets just like that. That's an important skill to have, especially in this game where there's always a certain amount of players looking at you from every angle, and having the ability to flick on to the next person before they can really single in their aim on you gives you a really high advantage in games. And there's a lot of other COD pros and aimers who do that kind of thing. And not gonna lie, it looks really sus as well. It looks mega sus. Like, people call you a cheater all the time for that kind of thing. I get it at least 2 to 3 times a day at this point for stuff like this that you're seeing. And they're just quick flicks. So if you can get good at these, it's definitely gonna up your aiming skill, especially in Modern Warfare. This game, the aiming mechanics are so steady. They're so stable. I absolutely love it, and that's probably why I play this game so much. And like I said before, you're gonna want to switch up your guns. So I switched to the MP5. And you know, the first gun was an AR. This gun's an SMG. One's lighter, one's heavier, especially depending upon the attachments you put on the guns. So like I said, every gun is going to aim different. So if you don't practice aiming with different guns in the custom game, say you only practice aiming with like the AK when you hop into a custom game, and then you go and play Shoot the Ship, or you go play Domination, or whatever you're playing, and you're like, God, my aim doesn't feel as good as it did in the custom game, and I'm using a P90 now. Well, that's the difference. The P90 is lighter. It might have more steady aim when you're ADSing. So like practicing with an array of guns helps your aim every day, because you got to get used to how every gun is and how it moves and how it aims. And that's probably one of the bigger skills to have in this game as well, because you can have great aim, but almost every gun's going to change your sensitivity just a little bit, because they all have like slightly more sensitive moving from ADS to hip fire to whatever. So you're definitely going to want to change up your guns and check the aim on each one and just hone in that skill. All right, next up, the next gun I use is the Ram 7. All these classes that I use, I've either put them together myself, or I've gotten some off a few YouTubers and stuff, some really good classes. If you guys do want these classes, let me know in the comments, and I'll make a separate video or a separate post about all the classes I use. But as long as you're comfortable with the classes you're using, you could use just about anyone in a custom game and practice your aim. But yeah, so the Ram 7, it's a really stable gun. And the thing is, you're also going to want to use a gun. Not only are you going to want to change up between ARs and SMGs, but you're going to want to use guns as well that go from using iron sights to using reflex sights, because a reflex sight definitely feels different than iron sights no matter what. So that's always the next thing I practice. So after I get a couple iron sights in, I move to reflex, and that's a whole different aim park. So and try that out and try your flicks and try everything. So then I move to an MP7, another gun I have set up with a reflex sight. And this class is actually really stable. If you guys do want it, like I said, let me know. This is one of my favorite classes to use, and is now my main class from the MP7, especially when I play either Shoot the Ship or Domination or whatever I'm playing. Really good for S&D as well. It's very stable. But yeah, so the important thing with this gun is the headshot stability is great. So I actually try and practice stable dead center of the chest or headshots, and that's one of my more important aim tips, is really trying to practice those shots specifically, because when you can get good at flicking and stick, I call it a flick and stick, it's basically just moving and stabilizing on a target. When you can get good at that dead center of the chest, it looks way better. I use the Uzi. The Uzi is probably one of the most stable SMGs in the game, and it hits like a truck, especially if you're using the AE32 rounds. And I always try and practice aim with that every time I play. And more importantly, the Uzi is probably one of the most popular guns in the game, especially for search and destroy, if that's something you play. So practicing with this gun is just going to help hone in your skills in search and destroy as well, which is why it's always a good idea to do that. All right, next up, I have the M13 class that I put in a video maybe last week, I think it was. This is probably the most stable class I've ever used in the game. Like, it feels like the OG Growl class for Warzone. Like, this thing is incredibly stable. I think I got a 60 rounds mag in it, and I just highly recommend it. And the reason why I use such stable guns is because it really helps your aim. Like, it's harder to practice your aim on guns that aren't really optimized for stability. It might make you better in terms of recoil, and you should practice using guns that have really bad recoil so that you can learn how to control it. But if you already know, just keep using stable guns and practice your aim this way, because why would you use like a shittier gun class in a game anyways? You're just going to probably use what's the best and what's more available to you. All right, guys, and finally, the last tip I have, which is probably the most important. It's very overlooked by a lot of YouTubers, anybody who explains how to get better at aiming. It's really simple, and it's really good for learning a new sensitivity, a high sensitivity, whatever you're learning. Is this right here. Find yourself a flat wall and a 90-degree turn. So just know your 90-degree turn. So I turn on my hand cam so you guys can see. Slowly move your 90-degree turn and know that distance, right? And then quickly flick out those distances. And if you can have muscle memory, know those 90-degree flicks, you're golden, because that's the most important part about your aim. And not only do you want to know the 90s, but you want to know the distance right here between your 180 flicks directly behind you, and then put those right into action. And not only do you want to go this direction, but obviously you're going to want to practice flicking the other direction, your 90-degree flicks from each side. So know your 90s just like that. And then the same thing, know your 180s. And it's okay if you're a little bit off, but you got to know the general distance, and that's how you start to get better at really knowing your sensitivity. Now, here's the other thing too. So if you know your 90-degree flicks just like that, a 45, which is right about here, is always going to be half the distance of a 90. So once you have muscle memory down for your 90-degree turn, half of that is a 45. And that's how you can get to be like shooting here and then here and then here, and know like these distances for players to be. And one of the more important things about my aim is, obviously this is not for controller players. This is, you know, all this that I'm showing you guys, most of it at least, is for mouse and keyboard. And one of the more important things you can really do is your sensitivity on your mouse, even on controller, your ADS sensitivity in a lot of games. So like this hip fire and this ADS, usually the ADS is slower, so you can kind of track better and do what you do. I don't do that. And a lot of other COD pros, aimers, and whatever don't do that. And the reason is, if you have this be high and this be a low sensitivity, now you have to practice two different sensitivities. Screw that, dude. Make it all the same. Put a 1.0 on your ADS sensitivity so that this movement and this movement are exactly the same. So you can practice your flicks ADSing, and they're going to be exactly the same hip fire. And that's probably one of the most important tips. And those things right there are like probably my most important aim tips. And you guys, you know, if anyone's been watching my videos for a while, you can tell my aim's definitely gotten better over a course of time. And the most important thing to remember here is your aim is not going to be godlike overnight. It's just not going to happen for you. I don't know anyone who can just have that well of aim overnight. So it's going to take some time. But the thing is, people give up too fast and they don't want to stick with stuff. So I'm telling you guys right now, if you want to have great aim and you want to really get it to a point that's like really competible with a lot of those great aimers out there, you got to be doing this every day if you're serious about it, you know. And you know, that's easy enough, because if this is the game you play every day, spend 30 minutes doing your aim training, spend 10 minutes inside the custom game, and then hop into your games. And I bet over the course of even a week to 2 weeks, you're going to see your aim has improved so much. So I highly recommend doing that. And those are definitely, without a doubt, the most important tips that I have for you guys, especially the one at the end about practicing your 90-degree turns, your 180s, knowing your 45s, and having your ADS sensitivity be the same as your hip fire. Those are, without a doubt, the most important tips I have. All right, guys, that should, without a doubt, wrap up the video. If you do have additional questions, or you want to know those gun classes that I shared earlier, or anything like that, do let me know down in the comments, because I would absolutely love to share with you guys everything I know and the experience I have about like getting your aim better and just everything. So like I said, let me know, leave a like, comment, subscribe, and as always, guys, take care. I'll catch you in the next one.